Well, welcome to another video with Advice PC Group. Now this video is going to be a little bit different, okay? All honesty, completely different. I have just experienced a very negative experience with Dell and the probability that support case information is being distributed by Dell or that they have been breached. Now I have a few tidbits of the actual phone calls that kind of shows what Dell is really promoting as to what they're doing. So what I actually have up on the screen here is actually part of the Federal Trade Commission, and I have this up here because it's going to really set the tone to what is going on and what the experience is with Dell. I'm not here to bash Dell. I'll never do that. But I think that people need to be aware about what they're being told and what the problems are and what the fallacies are with what they're being told. So the very first item here says Help Desk National Refunds. It's talking about the actual scam calls for technical support that tell you that you're infected, which we've done other videos on. And it says here that there was over 3,700 refunds checks sent out January of 2018 for a total of $668,000. Now let that sink in for a moment. I haven't divided it out, but that's tens of thousands of dollars per check. So when I look at this, it reminds me of a phone call that I just made in the last couple days, 2 days worth of phone calls to Dell. I'm going to give very few of the actual calls because I was on the phone for about 4 hours in the last 2 days with Dell and the Federal Trade Commission. Their position, when I say they, I'm talking Dell, about protecting your information is very questionable. So what I want to do is I want to play the first the first audio that I have as part of the call. And I'm going to kind of narrate it just a little bit. So basically we're coming in and I'm explaining to the individual about how that my number, my cell phone number, has never been tied to one of our clients, but I helped one of our clients get a repair done through Dell, and a person calls me on my cell phone asking for our client. Now my number's not tied to anybody else, or I'm sorry, not tied to her in any other way. It's just that one case. So this is the actual part of the call to where I'm basically having the brush off that I don't really know what's going on. I'm going to roll the actual audio.
Some name has ever been tied to this phone number is through Dell on that one case. And then for them to have the service tag number and the serial number, or express service code of the one with all numbers, the only way they could get that is from your database. So now my information, like I said, and along with probably hundreds of thousands of others, have been compromised. And not to say the fact that if someone calls, identifies themselves as Dell, and they happen to have your service tag number, that builds that trust that, oh yeah.
Okay. Actually, sir, this is already being investigated by Dell, and we have actually a special department who do the investigation for this one.
Okay.
We actually recommend our customers.
Actually, let me interrupt you. Let me interrupt you one moment, okay? Because
Go ahead.
the investigation that you're talking about is people calling and saying they're from Dell. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying they have access to your database information. That is a whole different thing than somebody just being a scam caller. This is what I'm having a hard time getting people to understand. It's not just somebody calling and saying, I'm from Dell. and they're a scammer, the problem is they have access to your database, and they're giving the service tag and serial numbers to try to build trust that they are with Dell.
Okay. Yes, I totally understand. Okay. Actually, I was able to pull up your records here on my end. This is for incident 155559.
Yep.
You're correct. Warranty was already expired last September 11 of 2017. And there is already an open service request ticket for this one, which was actually created by our out of warranty department. Okay. Now, for the issue that you have, I'll just place you on hold for a few minutes, okay? I'll get in touch with my resolution specialist concerning this one. I want you to stay on the line for me, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so I want to kind of break down what just happened. Dell does have out on their website a link, I'll bring it up here, that actually is for report a phone scam. But if you read the very top sentence here, there's nowhere in here does it say that an individual has all your information. Now, I won't read what it says there, but no, that just says somebody's calling and saying that, hey, they're Dell. And if you read through all of this stuff, it has nothing to do with a breach of information. And that's the point I'm trying to get across to Dell in all of these conversations. Now, during the actual time, I actually wanted to make sure, okay, that I could report this to corporate Dell, because this is a corporate issue. So I'm going to go ahead and roll this video, this audio, that actually is the discussion dealing with trying to contact corporate to go and let them know that there's an issue.
I got it. Thank you so much for that information. Now, sir, okay, we do not have a direct number for our corporate, but I can actually escalate the call to our corporate support if you can provide me the service tag or the expert service code of your computer, of your Dell system.
Okay. Well, but if I give it to you, the first thing you're going to do is transfer me to out of warranty support. And I've already been through this for 35 minutes, okay, before, and I don't want to do that again. I mean, if Dell doesn't care, I'll just post all this all over social media, because I've already filed a complaint with the FTC on this, because this happened yesterday morning. And I called Dell yesterday, and for some reason, the same phone number was able to get me to a customer advocate person that then went ahead and told me that they would go ahead and have to transfer me to the fraud department, and gave me a different phone number and said they don't have an internal transfer, and it happened to be the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission. So I went ahead while I'm on the phone with them and filed a complaint, okay, with them about it. But my problem is, I think Dell needs to take responsibility for this, because my personal information, as well as probably hundreds of thousands of others, are out there floating around, and Dell's not reporting it.
Okay. Yes, sir. I totally understand, okay? And nothing to worry, even though your service is already out of warranty.
Okay, I'm going to pause it there, because there's lots of meat there. First of all, she's brushed me off and said that she's going to send me to corporate support, and not corporate like I asked. But at the very beginning, she said there is no corporate number. I find that kind of amazing. And then, of course, she goes on and she says she understands, and then she says that I'm out of warranty support. But the problem isn't warranty support. You see, the whole thing here is everything keeps getting brushed away from the actual fact, and that is there's a breach of data from Dell. Now, of course, I have a couple feelings that it is probably one of the subcontractors that is based overseas somewhere that has access to it, and they just figured out that if they have service tag numbers, phone numbers, and everything out of the cases, that they can build the trust that somebody's going to go and let them in. And then they're going to say, well, you need to pay. And even though they say that you need to pay, it may be just a tiny amount. Could be 20, 30 bucks, could be a few hundred. But they don't really care how much they get the first time, because all they want is your credit card information with your PIN number, and that way they can continue to charge it. So I'm going to go ahead and let the rest of this play, and you can see how that she's pushing me over to another group, which was a common thing. I spoke to 7 people total on this. So I'm going to let the last part of this audio play.
We will go ahead, okay? Escalate this one to our corporate support. So if you can provide me the service tag or the express service code of your system, so that I can be able to pull up your records.
Okay, it's going to be H as in hotel, C as in Charlie.
Okay, so that's going to be all of that one. Now, there is one thing that I want to go ahead and cover here, and it's one of the later people that I spoke to that I think has me more actually upset than any of the other ones. So this particular person actually is trying to persuade me that this information didn't come from Dell. And if you remember most of my conversations so far with Dell, I have mentioned to them that, and I removed the person's name or client's name. My phone number is not tied to her at all, except through Dell. And keep in mind, they have the service tag number, the serial number, my phone number, her name, and her address. So all those things together is not going to add up to what this person is trying to say. Now this is about a 4-minute audio, almost 4 minutes, 45 seconds. I'm going to roll this audio. Then I'm going to show you an actual post that I found online as well. Here's the audio.
My name, Laura's name, Laura's phone numbers, my phone numbers, the service tag number, the serial number, and of course you have those two, you get the model number, but I'm not saying that that was actually leaked, but more than likely was part of it. And then when I called Dell yesterday morning to report it, hoping that maybe that Dell would take ownership and do something about it, I was on the phone for a very short period of time, and they go, oh, you need to go to the fraud department. And gives me the FTC's phone number. Never told me they were giving me the FTC's phone number. They just called it the fraud department, which is an insinuation of Dell fraud department. So I did file a complaint with the FTC. Since I'm on the phone with them, I might as well. But I still have a huge issue. Because the fact is, these people are not going to take one case and decide to call that one case. They have hundreds of thousands that they probably have pulled. Which is probably why there is a spike in the actual call saying they're from Dell, and they're building trust by saying, well, here's your serial number. I wouldn't know that if I didn't work for Dell.
Well, sir, I understand what you're trying to say, and it is really a concerning topic. We do everything.
Please know what he said. I understand what you're trying to say or imply. And it's very concerning for Dell. I want that part to kind of sink in. Telling me that I don't know where they got it from, but yet I'm going to reiterate that this person, that scammer that called me, had my phone number, our client's name, serial number, and service tag number. Now, what the next thing is this gentleman says is that you can get that stuff anywhere. Kind of saying that you can just go to the website and get it. And that is absolutely false. There is no way to find a service tag for an individual just by searching on either the individual or making up a service tag or whatever. So this is a brush off, and this is trying to, I'm going to say, confuse me from knowing what the facts are. I'm going to roll the rest of the audio.
Our capability to isolate these kind of issues. I cannot say that it is a breach, or I will not go in that conversation as I do not have a resource to either verify or to deny such a situation. However, what we are doing is for the cases where the information is being verified by the spam callers, which usually they tend to do is the service tag, which if you put on the website will give you the express service code or the serial number. So that it's a foresight by design. If you have one of the information, you can have the other relevant information listed there. It still doesn't answer how come they have their contact details. Although the one thing which bothers me is the issue, the system information that you shared when you called is different. So I believe you have two computers here. Is that correct?
No. I think I actually gave the wrong information the prior time, so I had to go back and look it up and make sure of what the number was. I had a hard time understanding the individual, and I'm trying to think of what I found was the part I did not understand with it, because I asked this guy like 4 times to repeat it, and so.
Mr. Thomas, I will certainly, we are here to help you, and we understand your personal information is our top priority. We have a dedicated team, which is a fraud team. It's not the not the FTC number. So we have a dedicated team where we can connect, as in where the information can be gathered. What all?
I'm going to pause that one more time because I want to reiterate another important factor here. When I called the prior day, I was given the FTC number as the fraud number. And with that fraud group actually being at Dell, that leads me to assume one of two things. Either the first person I spoke to that gave me the FTC number didn't know about the fraud number at Dell, or purposely redirected me away from Dell. Now, I know it may sound like a conspiracy theory, and everybody knows that we do not do videos like this. But it has become very evident to me with this case that there is a lack of care that is being presented by several employees of Dell, whether it be subcontractors or actually work for Dell, that continue to try to push the buck away from Dell. This person here was probably the most elegant, in the way that he would say things. Really sounds truthful. But if we go back and if we listen to some of the things he was saying about how you can get it anywhere, he did not give any facts. He just said you can get it anywhere on the internet. And like I said before, you can't. You have to know the actual service tag number. And with all honesty, it is letters and numbers all intermixed. So it's not like you can just come up with a group of numbers and just happen to pick one. So I'm going to go and finish playing this because the last part of this is actually pretty good too. Here's the audio.
Things has been taken or been shared, or I would say being verified by the scam caller, so we understand what kind of intrusion we're talking about here. So because there are different mediums where the information can be gathered and can be collaborated. Now, the issue regarding the system that you said, which was the part was shipped to the wrong address. Now, that request, was it made for this computer or was it for another computer?
No, that was for this computer.
like last year somewhere like
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
Correct?
Yeah, it was like last March, I believe it was.
Oh, I understand that. And then we're talking about the same computer. I thought it would just happen a couple of months back, and
Oh.
that's how the information was.
No.
So we'll see. With us as in Dell, even if when we charge you, we have a few mediums only through which we can take a payment. So the first medium is we call to the IVR system, where the information is fed over the phone to the system, and it's charged, and the transaction will be proceeded, and there's nothing like documented be saved anywhere. The second way is that.
Okay, so what he was trying to say is, because I brought up to his attention about my credit card information being out there, and he's trying to say that there's absolutely nothing to do with it, okay, and that it's completely secure and I should not have to worry. Again, it's a way of pushing things aside. Now I'm going to go ahead and kind of recap some of this, and please understand, this is just a snippet of all of the audios, and anybody that wants to listen to the entire audios in full, then that way they cannot be taken out of context, I will send them to you. I am open to doing it. I got nothing to hide. I want everybody to know what the truth is, and I want people to hear from the actual company employees what they're telling people. Now, the last thing I want to talk about, and I'm going to bring this over here. Remember the last person said that they take our information security #1. And so I did a quick search, and honestly, I think it was the 7th thing that came up, and I'm going to bring it over. Now here is the actual post. I don't know these people, okay, or this website owner or anything like that. But when I did the search on just the phone number that called me, this was like the 7th item that came up. Now, when I look at this and the actual heading, now whether this group hates Dell or likes Dell, I don't know. But it says, Dell customers targeted by phone scams that might be an inside job. Now, I didn't find this until towards the very end, and I do have it in the recordings. But I just want to go ahead and bring up this, and I want to show a very important thing. You see, right here, this person documented that they know all this information, and this information is personal information. And like you heard on the audios, Dell employees are saying that they are just, security of our information is #1, and just get this form filled out and we will go ahead and have them look at it. So my feeling is that's all great, but I'm going to scroll back up here at the top, and I purposely did not bring this up. This article was written January 6, 2016, a little over 2 years ago, and they're still claiming that they do everything to protect your information. I have to conclude with the information that I have at this point that information that is in support cases at Dell may not be secure. And I also want to make sure that everybody understands nobody will call you and tell you that you're infected and let me connect. No one. So with that, I'm going to get ready to conclude this video. I apologize that it seems like it's probably all over the board. There is so much information that I wanted to put into this. However, to be honest, I wanted to keep it down to a minimum of time. So I tried to pick just things that really spoke to the concerns that I have. You may not share the same concerns, and that's perfectly fine. But for me to have a support case information that has disjoined information, such as my cell phone number with the owner of the device, and the scammers have that, I can make no other conclusion than that information came from the Dell database. Which means that either the database is not secure, or, as it shows in this article from 2016, it may be an inside job. Now, I'm not an attorney, but it makes me wonder, how can this happen? The only thing that really comes to mind is just a high view, quick thought evaluation, is that the companies that are subcontracting with Dell, that have access to their database, that is domiciled in a foreign nation, is probably the leak or the pulling of information and scamming. It is very evident that all the scams actually originate overseas. All the phone scams for support is what I'm talking about. So, because there's been a huge increase, and I'll put this up one more time, that we have over $668,000 paid out in restitution as of January of 2018 from the Federal Trade Commission, that this is a huge issue, and it seems to be getting bigger. I'm not saying Dell is the cause of it getting bigger, but I am saying it is a contributing factor. Because as I said in the audio to the Dell representative, anytime that someone calls and says they're from Dell, and they have the serial number, and they have the service tag, and they know everything about the laptop, that builds trust that it is actually a Dell rep calling. I'll be signing off. I'm concerned. I am disheartened. And I want everybody to be safe. Thank you. And please accept my apologies for the longer video. We don't normally run this long. Have a great time. Happy computing.